In the past 10 years, we have seen 32 quarterbacks drafted in the first round of the NFL draft. And out of that 32, there are only 4 who have undoubtedly played at the level you'd expect for a player selected that early. When I think of a first-round quarterback, I imagine a player who can lead a franchise to the top of the league. Winning a Super Bowl is the ultimate goal, but football is a team sport, so I understand every team isn't equipped for a championship. But the burden of being a number 1 selection for an NFL franchise includes making your team relevant and a yearly contender. You may not win a chip, but at the minimum, you're required to raise the level of your team. Fail to meet this requirement and you are deservedly labeled a bust. Well, let's say a miss, because sometimes it's not just on the player. The franchise holds some responsibility in this as well. The allure of drafting a player who will change the history of your team is the same thing that fuels those who play the lottery or visit casinos. The gamble starts with great optimism. From the time the selection is in, the cameras find the player and his family, who are all smiles, sometimes even in tears. The next shot goes to the GM and his staff in the war room, who are all high-fiving each other, as they are overly confident in their scouting from the past year. This false sense of reality continues through the weekend every year, as we see players matched with their new city and staff. The press conferences, the tour of the facilities, pay attention this weekend and the following week of how welcoming and excited the teams are to meet their new leader. But remember, out of the last 32 quarterbacks drafted in the first round, there are only 4 who have managed to become stars. And the rest of them, some have been good, and the others, not so much. Lucky for us, the 2024 NFL Draft may be historic. And if history repeats itself, we may even see a Hall of Famer or 2 from this class. There's a chance that 6 quarterbacks may be drafted in the first round, which would tie the most ever, a feat that has only happened one other time. The 1983 NFL Draft currently stands alone as having the most quarterbacks drafted in the first round. The 6 drafted were John Elway, Todd Blackledge, Jim Kelly, Tony Eason, Ken O'Brien, and Dan Marino. But not only was this draft special because of the quantity of quarterbacks selected early, it's remembered because of the quality. 4 of the 6 led their teams to the Super Bowl, and 2 of that 4 made it to the Super Bowl a combined 9 times. They raised the standard, and the field had to adjust to the new momentum and level of play being brought in. 41 years later, will the quarterback selected in the first round of the 2024 draft be able to raise the bar even higher? We shall see. This draft may also seem like deja vu for a lot of fans, as a large number of former players are going to hear their son's name called on the big stage. NFL Bloodlines currently run heavy through the league, for good reason. But this year, it seems even deeper, with the names featured being former star players. Marvin Harrison, Jerry Rice, Ed McCaffrey, Terrell Owens, Frank Gore, John Alt, Chris Jenkins, Luther Ellis, and Jeremiah Trotter. NFL Hall of Famer John Lynch, who is currently the San Francisco 49ers GM, had this to say about evaluating the children of his peers.
I believe in bloodlines. I really do. I mean, I think there's evidence that you should. Now that can't. Then you got to step away from that, and you got to evaluate it, and that's sometimes difficult to do. And that's why a lot of different eyes, a lot of different perspectives, and that's what we try to do when we have our R&D look at it. We have our coaches look at it. We have our scouting look at it. You know, we try to hit it from a variety of measuring points and inflection points as to how you grade these guys, because you don't want to do it just off that. That wouldn't be smart. But these guys, there's some inherent pressure on who their dad is, but there's also some good genes, and I think that matters. And so it's exciting that you have all these great. I mean, we're talking Hall of Fame players and great players, and brothers of players, and it's really fun.
And I agree with them. There's something special about Bloodlines, and he has a prime example as a starting running back, Christian McCaffrey. When a player grows up around the game, they pick up on the little nuances that are needed to excel and be great. Success has a pattern, and once that formula is figured out, it can be replicated. But this isn't an automatic. The offspring has to want it for themselves, then make it happen. Across the country, Howie Roseman spoke on this topic as well. And here's what he had to say.
I'm biased towards our hometown players. I'm biased towards the people who have legacy with this franchise. So I think that's hard. And I think that's why, when Coach talked about getting a lot of the information and trying to get myself out of that moment and, just trying to make the best decision for the Philadelphia Eagles and not making an emotional decision. And so I think when you talk about any of the guys who are local, and we just talked about trading a guy who was local, it's hard not to want to keep guys who have Philly ties, who understand what it's like to play here, or to bring those guys in. And I do think it's a plus. It's a plus to bring someone in this atmosphere who understands what it's like. And this is the best atmosphere in the National Football League. And I think that they know that when you win, it's like nothing else that you experience that, but it's different for people who haven't experienced that before.
And with that said, I'm locked in and excited to see how this may play out. Be on the lookout during the draft for familiar names. And if I miss any players with NFL bloodlines who are coming out in this year's draft, let me know in the comments below. Thank you.